also have a Facebook and Instagram titled Universal Finance Academy. If you would like to send me a voicemail instead of emailing me or messaging me, the number is 385-499-9124. So I wanted to start with a poem by Rumi. So I am and I am not. I'm drenched in the flood which has yet to come. I'm tied up in the prison which has yet to exist. Not having played the game of chess, I'm already the checkmate. Not having tasted a single cup of your wine, I'm already drunk. Not having entered the battlefield, I'm already wounded and slain. I no longer know the difference between image and reality. Like the shadow, I am and I am not. By Rumi. So a lot of people, when they think about, what makes them intelligent or what makes them capable of something, it all comes with experiences. But at the same time, sometimes you aren't able to experience something in order to become knowledgeable or skilled, which is why I like this poem. Even though it's talking about other things like learning how to play chess or being someone who's very strong and able and capable in times of stress, being able to learn from other people, even if you don't have that experience, is a great way to become stronger within a skill set. So always make sure if you have great mentors around you to talk to them and to learn from them, because that'll help you grow as well, even if you aren't able to experience the exact same things that they're able to. So the topics for today, so we're going to talk about a couple important finance definitions that I wasn't able to on my show a couple episodes ago. I'll talk about finance equations, the specific parts about them, so you can understand why a specific, for example, what is interest rate and why do you use it in an equation to understand how much money you'll owe at the end of a year, for example. And then I'll actually show you how to use an equation for a real life circumstance. Yeah, so financial definitions continued. So what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is money set aside for big unexpected expenses, such as job loss or large medical bills. It provides a financial buffer that shields against accruing unwanted debt. So again, I know I talked about this before, but try to have an emergency fund of at least 3 months of your usual work, how much you make from your work for 3 months. Make sure to have that as an emergency fund, especially nowadays, with COVID, with other, unexpected circumstances, whether it be the weather or, medical bills. Making sure you have extra money set aside in case of anything is very important. So what is income? Income is money received through sources such as employment, investments, or business transactions. There are 2 ways to measure income: gross income and net income. Gross income is the total amount that's earned before expenses, taxes, and other costs. Net income is what remains after these expenses are deducted. So net income is what you're able to use for your bills, for rent, to buy groceries, to go out, to take a vacation. But also be careful, sometimes you might not realize that you usually have to pay taxes at the end of the year, depending on the type of income you have and the type of situation you're in. So I would suggest, always having a savings account and having extra money in case you do need to pay any taxes at the end of the year. But you can always talk to a financial advisor and see if you need to do that or not. But it's important to realize that your gross income is not actually how much you make. Even if it looks like you have a big paycheck, make sure to look at what your actual net income is, so you're not overspending or expecting a certain amount of money at the end of a paycheck and then not getting it and was planning to use that money for something. So what is interest? Interest is the percentage of a loan principal that lenders charge borrowers. There are 2 primary kinds of interest: simple interest and compound interest, which is what I'm going to talk about today. Simple interest is calculated exclusively on the initial amount of money borrowed, while compound interest is calculated based on the loan principal plus the interest that accumulates each period. So it sounds kind of complicated. Basically, simple interest means you put aside a set of money, and then you get a specific amount of money back every month, and it's the same amount of money that you earn from interest from the bank. Well, compound interest means you put a set of money, you make a certain amount of money 1 month, and then after the next month, you make that amount of money and a little bit more. So usually compound interest, you're usually making more money than simple interest. And if it was up to me, I would always try to get compound interest rather than simple interest, but it always depends on the situation, of course. So what is a need versus a want? So one of the most basic concepts of personal finance is being able to differentiate between needs and wants. A need is defined as an essential expense, such as food or housing. A want is an expense that would be nice to have, but isn't essential, such as designer clothing. So if we were to focus on making a list of needs and wants every month, we'd be a lot better at keeping our expenses in the positive rather than the negative. I would suggest, every month at the beginning of the month, write down everything that you need. You need to pay your rent, you need to buy groceries, you need to have money for gas if you have a car, you need to have money for other types of transportation if you don't have a car, you need to have money for your utilities, you need to have money to pay off any loans or any debt you have, you need to have money for a savings account and an emergency fund, you need to have money potentially for education if you have kids that might be going to college, or if you're planning to go back to school as well. So those are all your needs. Once you put away enough money after you get paid during that month to fulfill all those needs, then you can kind of look at the extra money you have on hand that you could use for your wants. You've already saved money for a rainy day, you've saved money for emergencies, you've paid all your bills. So now, if you want, you could save for a vacation, you could go out and eat, you could see a movie, you could buy new clothes, but only should you buy a want once you fulfilled all of your needs. If you don't fulfill your needs, then you're going to be in trouble at the end of the month, you'll be in the negative, or you won't be able to pay things on time and you might get in trouble. So now we have the concept of pay yourself first. Pay yourself first, or PYF, is a strategy in which saving is prioritized and made an essential cost in a budget. Typically in pay yourself first, a certain percentage of income is deposited in a savings account each month. Just as other needs, such as rent and food, are essential, so is saving. And only once those need expenses are covered can money be used for want purchases. This is exactly what I was saying before. So make sure you're paying yourself first. Pay all the things that you need to take care of. Pay all of your bills, pay all of your expenses. And then when you have extra money after that, then you can buy whatever you want. And then you have a freedom to choose what to do with that extra money, whether you want to save it, you could invest it, or you could just buy things like a new TV, for example, maybe a new iPhone, or even Android. So those are examples. Okay, so what is principal? Principal is the amount of money due on a loan before interest. So principal could be either something that's negative or it could be something that's positive. But you need to base it on the specific situation you're in. So a principal amount for retirement, for example, would be the amount you start with when you're saving for retirement, which would be a positive amount. Whereas principal for paying back a loan would be the negative amount that you borrowed from a bank or a credit union, for example. So time value of money. Time value of money, or TVM, is the concept that money available now is worth more than an identical amount in the future. This is because money that's invested has the potential to grow, and the longer that it's invested, the more it will appreciate. Money that's acquired later has less time to go through investments and is thus considered less valuable. So a lot of people might have heard the term of inflation, or the concept of, bread back in my day used to be 60 cents, but now bread today for you is $2. That's what the time value of money is. Every year, as the economy grows, and there's international transactions and countries develop, the value of their money, whether it's the dollar or any other kind of currency, will grow in value or worth depending on how the economy is doing. So if you invest $1 today, in 10 years it could be $10,000. But if you wait for let's say 3 years to invest, that dollar can maybe only invest up to $7,000. So you need to be careful on how you're spending your money, when you're spending it, and spending it now versus spending it in 10 years, you'll be, wasting your money, but investing your money now and then looking at how much you make in 10 years, you'll be able to save a lot and you'll be able to get a lot of return on your investment at the end. So I'll go ahead and kind of talk about, various examples that I've had to deal with when I'm looking at various types of loans as well as, money markets, etc. So personally, if you are someone who is just starting out, whether you're a student or you're a parent or you're someone who's looking into learning about finances, make sure to focus on your budget, right? I always talk about keeping a budget and making sure that you know what you're going to be doing in the future. So if we look at a money market versus a savings account versus a CD, for example, a regular savings account, you usually only make, maybe 1%, 2%, so it's not a lot. If you get to a certain amount of money, I know at my credit union, if you usually get to maybe 2,000 or 3,000, you can actually get a savings or money market account instead and get maybe 5% return instead. And then if you got a CD, which is a type of certificate of deposit from the government, you could potentially make, 7%. But each of them have, their own benefits as well as, different kind of opportunities. So you could, get a regular savings account and you'd be able to pull that money whenever. And so if you ever got an emergency or you really needed money for, let's say in the art project or maybe you wanted to write a book, for example, you could use that instantly, but you wouldn't be making a lot of money because the bank knows that you're not someone who's probably going to keep that money in your bank account for a long time. Whereas if you decide to save, a couple thousand and you get a money market account, the bank sees that, you're saving and you're willing to let them borrow that money as well. So they'll give you a higher interest rate and you'll get more money back. And the longer you keep that money in your account and the more money you put in there, the more you're going to return. But that also means that you can't take that money out. Usually they have a limit that's set. So for example, I know here in Utah, some credit unions have like 3,000 as their limit. So if you lower that limit under 3,000 and you keep your money market account, they might actually charge you a fee because you didn't keep it at the amount that they wanted. But if you increase the amount every month and you're over 3,000, that means you'll be making more every month after that. But make sure to, if you decide to take out money from a higher type of savings account or any kind of checking account where there's specific limitations or rules, to talk to your banker and switch the type of account to a more normal account or a less restricted account so you don't get any unnecessary fees, and you'll keep a good relationship with the bank as well. For example, if you wanted to do something more serious and long-term, you could get a CD or a certificate of deposit. And you usually put a lot more money in there, and they have rules where you have to keep it in for a certain amount of time at the bank. I think the lowest one is about 6 months, and you could go up to maybe 5 years. And the government is backing that deposit certificate, so you know that you won't be losing it by anyone anytime soon. And they usually give you a fixed rate depending on how long you decide. So a 6 month, you might get maybe like 3% back. A 1 year, you could get, a 3.5% back. The longer you go, I think for 5 years, you could maybe get up to like 10%. And then you usually have to put a specific amount in as well. I think the lowest you can put is maybe like 500. And then depending on whether you can or not, you can put more money as well. So if you have a long-term goal, let's say in 10 years you want to start a business, maybe opening up a couple certificates of deposit would be helpful because your money would be backed, you would get a higher interest rate, and you would be able to get that money back after the time period has been completed. So yeah. I'm going to go ahead and take a break and see if anyone has, asked any comments or anything. After this, we will talk about various types of equations and and we'll go very in depth. If you have a calculator or paper and pen, I would suggest, going ahead and getting ready so we can do the problems together. And then at the end of the show, I'll have a problem that I won't solve completely because I want you to try and solve it and comment what you think the correct answer would be. My show, you have a comment, or you would like to talk about anything you learned on my program, that would be great. I would appreciate seeing what people like about the show, as well as getting suggestions about what you would like to learn in the future as well. But tomorrow, 1 p.m. California time, so 9 p.m. in Europe, we will have a live show with Mr. Hassan Parwaz at Bahar TV and Sohail TV. So please join tomorrow at 1 p.m. either California time or 9 p.m. in Europe. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about these equations. So a lot of people, when they think of financial equations, they only think about equations for big businesses. And it seems very complicated, and it can be, especially when you're talking about finance or accounting. Figuring out these large spreadsheets of information for a business, whether small or big, can be very time consuming. And if you don't do it correctly, you can get in a lot of trouble. But right now, I'm still focusing on personal finance. Hopefully, in the future, I will talk about business finance and talk about those equations as well. So now I'm going to talk about amortization. Amortization is basically a way in which you can figure out the spending or the amount you need to pay back after a while. So the first equation I'm going to be talking about is the monthly payment equation. So how much you would need to pay back for a loan that you might have taken out, for example. So what is it? Amortization means making periodic payments over time to pay off debt. How to use it? This equation calculates how much a monthly payment will be on a debt. Rearrange the equation algebraically to show what portion of each monthly payment will go towards interest and towards the principal. It's best for calculating the cost of long-term debt, like mortgages, car loans, or student loans. Everyone I know in my life either has a student loan, has a car loan, or a mortgage. So if you have one of those, please pay attention, because this could really help you save money and save time paying something back. Making sure you pay things on time is very important in paying the correct amount. But also at the same time, paying extra can really help you. If I decided to pay back a loan, even $20 extra, I could end up saving, almost $200 just in interest. It depends on the loan, of course. I'm giving an example, but depending on your situation, if you even pay just $10 or $20 extra every month, you could end up saving a lot in extra costs that you didn't have. Okay, so let's talk about the different parts of this equation. So monthly payment, of course, you can put it as little p, or you can just put it as monthly payment. And it's the amount of money you pay every month to pay off a loan, a mortgage, a car, etc. The large P that you see at the top there is the principal. And I talked about that a little earlier. So the principal is the amount of the loan that you originally took out. So let's say you got a car for $20,000 and you need to pay that back now in 5 years. So the principal amount is that $20,000. But you'll also have to pay back interest because you're borrowing money from a bank or a credit union. So the R means interest rate. It can vary to, maybe only 0.5%, and it could go up to, maybe 30%. It depends on where you took the money out, how long the loan is going to be, how good your credit score is, and how large the loan is. So depending on all those factors, your interest rate could vary. You could pay more or you could pay less. It really just depends on the situation. So T means the number of periods. So for example, if it's an annual payment, that means you pay it once a year. If it's a monthly payment, that means you pay it once a month or 12 times in a year. So those are specific types of periods. If you paid biannually or twice a year, then that means you would pay, the number of periods would be twice. So N means the payments per period. So if you decided to pay once every month, you'd be paying once or 12 times in 12 months. But let's say you decided to pay 2 payments in a month. So you would be paying 24 payments in 12 months. Most people don't do that. Usually they only pay the 1 payment per month period. But it really depends on you. If you really want to pay something faster, you could increase that N number, pay more often, and decrease your loan at a faster rate and pay less interest overall as well. So let's go ahead and talk about a real life example. Let me write the equation down real quick, and then we can do the problem together. So we have small p, or your monthly payment, equals large P times your interest rate over the number of terms. So how often in a year you might be paying something. And that's all in parentheses. And then you divide all of this by 1 minus 1 plus your interest rate again over your number of periods to the, or exponent, negative your periods times the number of times you pay off your payment. You know, it looks very complex, but as long as you know what each value means, you'll be able to plug in the numbers, enter it into a calculator very simply, and then you'll be able to find your solution pretty quickly. So don't worry if it looks like a lot right now. You know, if you right now have the time, I would suggest, you know, getting a paper and a pencil and a calculator and trying to do the problems with me, and let me know if you get the same answers that I got. And if you got something different, maybe you can call me or email me and I can help you with that as well. And again, yeah, the phone number is 801-662-8875. So here's a real life example. You get an auto loan for $10,000 at 3%. If in any problem or any real life experience, they just give you 1%, that's usually an annual percent, not a monthly percent, not a monthly rate. If they specifically say you'll be paying, you know, 2.7% every month, then that means overall for the entire year, you should do 2.7 times 12 to figure out the total percentage. But if they say that your percentage for your loan is only 4%, or 12%, or 36%, it's usually an annual interest rate, and that means over the course of a year, you'll be paying back that specific amount of extra interest. Okay, so you got the loan for 7 years, which is not a bad time, and you're going to be paying once a month. So that's going to be your T, or the number of times you do a payment. And you're paying monthly, so that's your N, or your number of periods, basically. So now you want to know, okay, I got this car loan, I want to pay it back. How much am I going to have to pay every month? You don't want to sign any kinds of papers with a bank or you know, a car dealership without making sure you can pay the correct amount of money back, as well as making sure you know what you're getting into and making sure that the dealership or the company isn't trying to steal money from you. There have been circumstances where car companies will scam people because, you know, they're not doing a good job. So make sure to go to a dealership where a lot of people have given good reviews and you know they're trustworthy and you know how to do the math as well. So you can make sure that they're actually giving you the correct amount of money you have to pay, the correct payment amounts, and they're giving you an interest rate that is normal for the type of car that you're getting. So make sure to do that kind of research ahead of time. So before I share the solution, I'm going to go ahead and do the problem myself so you can see along with me. Okay, so you got a car loan or an auto loan for $10,000. So that means that your principal amount or the total original amount is 10,000. So your big P equals 10,000. And now it says you have a 3% interest rate, and you know it's annual because they didn't specifically say it's monthly or it's biannually. You know, never assume, ask them to make sure, but usually, at least here in the US, when they give you an interest rate for a loan, it's an annual loan. So again, R is your interest rate, so R equals 3%. And you never put a percentage in an equation. You always make sure to turn it into a decimal. I'm not sure if you know how to, but if you don't, no worries. So it's just 3% out of 100%. And then in order to make it into a decimal, you just get rid of these zeros and you move the decimal place from 3, 1, 2 times to the right. And you put the decimal. So 3% is equal to 0.03, which is what you would put in your equation as R. And you're going to be paying monthly. So there's 12 months in a year. So that means your period or your number of payment times will be 12. So N is equal to how many times you're going to be paying something back, the amount of periods within a year. And you're paying monthly, so again, it's 12 months. And then now you have to think, how many times do I want to pay this car loan back? You could pay just 1 time, you could pay 6 times, you could pay 3 times. It's up to you and what you're willing to invest or pay back as quickly as possible. Or also, what are your means? If you're only able to pay back, you know, the car loan once a month, that's okay. Just make sure that you are able to at the beginning. But if you're able to pay more, then, you know, why not pay more and pay less interest and pay off the car at a faster rate? So you decided to only pay it once a month. So that means that your P, or your number of period or times that you're going to pay your monthly payment, is going to be 12 times. Because you're paying once a month, there's 12 months, so 12 times 1 is 12 payments. So now I'm going to replace the equation with the specific numbers. So we're looking for our monthly payment. We know now that our principal, our original amount, is 10,000. So we can go ahead and put that value here. Okay, so we have 10,000 times. So what is our interest rate? Our interest rate is 3%, right? But we had to change the percentage into a decimal, and the decimal is 0.03. You can see that we have the R at the top, but we also have R at the bottom as well. So make sure to input the value for both R's. And then you decided to pay it back once a month, and there's 12 months in a year. So that means that your N equals 12. But we actually forgot about something. You're going to be paying this loan back over a course of 7 years. So even though you're only paying once a month for a year, every year that's 12 months, you're actually paying over a course of 7 years. So your N actually is 12 months per year, because you're doing monthly payments, times 7. And if that's a little bit confusing, you know, don't worry about it. Just think, you know, this is the amount of time I have to pay, which is 7 years. And then every month I'll be paying for a year, which is 12 months. So in total, it's going to be 12 months for a year over a course of 7 years. So 12 times 7, which is your total periods that you're going to be paying back. So it's not just 12, it's 12 times 7 instead. And that is 84. So let me go ahead and get a new, I'll just get a new whiteboard so I can clean up Yeah. Yeah, so let me just write what we have so far. So we have our payment, our monthly payment is equal to 10,000, which is our principal, times the 3%, which is the interest rate. And now we have figured out our period, or how many times overall we're going to be paying something back, which we figured out was 84. Because again, you're paying 12 times in a year, you're paying over a course of 7 years total, so that's 84 times that you're going to be paying something. So over 84 divided by, so we have 1 minus 1 plus the 0.03 over n again, so again 84, parentheses, to the negative 84, and now we have to figure out what's t. So again, t is the amount of times that you will be wanting to pay something back, either every month or every year. Right now, you've decided to only pay once every month, so that means for a full 12 months, you're only going to be doing 1 payment every month, so 12 times 1 is 12 payments over a year. So we'll do negative 84 times 12 as well. So if you have your calculators, go ahead and try to figure out what the answer is. I'll give you about a minute to try to figure it out, I'll give you like 20 seconds since you've had kind of the time to figure it out. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and then hopefully the answer, when you see it kind of written out as well, will be helpful. So here is it, it's written out, not on a whiteboard, but just overall. So the solution again, n equals 84 because you're doing 12 payments over a course of 7 years. Your interest rate is R 3%. But of course, they went ahead and did the division here. So that 0.03 divided by 12 is the 0.025. But, you know, it really depends on how you're doing it. So I would do that, you know, this would be for a year, but you're doing a monthly thing. So you divide it by 12, and that's going to give you that 0.0025. Because again, we're looking at monthly payments. We're not looking at a yearly concept. Okay, so then we have they have D, but in the equation that I'm using, I have N instead. So don't worry about it too much if that's a little bit of a confusion for you. They're just basically breaking down where they're getting their answers from. So like as you're typing in your answer in your calculator, you would be getting these specific numbers. You get that, you know, 75.68 times all of the rest. And then after you figured out this part, you figured out all of this, you would do the 10,000 times that amount over the amount you figured out here, and you would get your monthly payment to be $132.13. And if when you tried in your calculator you weren't able to get that, you know, let me know and I can go through it with you. But you know, use a TI, that'll be the most helpful for you. If you don't have a TI calculator, I can also send you YouTube tutorials as well, and you can watch those videos on how to do the equation on the calculator. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next concept, which is simple interest. Let me clean my boards real quick. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so what is simple interest? You can see the equation right here. Let's keep going. So what is it? Simple interest is interest earned from principal, or the original amount that you're putting into an account. Are you paying back? It depends on the situation. How to use it? This calculation can be done quickly to provide an idea of how much interest will accrue over time. Just remember, this equation ignores the effects of compounding. You'll get an error when you are working with a large principal and longer stretches of time. Best for a rough estimate on what you'll earn in a savings account or pay on a loan or credit card. So you can use simple interest for both when you are getting some kind of investment back. For example, you have a savings account or you have a CD, for example, or when you have to pay money back for like a loan or for a credit card. So depending, you can use this equation in both types of scenarios. And I think the most important thing when regarding simple interest is if you have to pay something back, I would say getting simple interest is better than compounding, because compounding means you're going to have to pay a lot more every month as your interest accrues. But simple interest, you're just only going to have to pay a specific amount every month as well as your original payment amount. But if we're thinking about the opposite of that, if you're getting money, or if you have a savings account or a CD, then a simple interest, you're actually making less money because you're only getting a specific amount back every month. While these on compound, you're getting a little bit extra every month because it's that specific amount plus a little bit more every month afterwards. So I hope that was kind of helpful. I know it's a little bit confusing sometimes. But simple, specific amount every month, complex or compound, extra every month based on what you previously paid or previously put in last time. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the equation parts. So simple interest, I usually put it as like a little I. So like little I equals capital P, or your principal, your original amount, times R, your interest rate, times T, or the number of periods. So again, a period could be, a month, it could be a year, it could be half a year. It just really depends on the situation and what you're paying back. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a real life example. But let me write the equation down, and I hope everyone else will write it down with me so we can practice together. So simple interest, or I like to just put like little I, equals P, big P, times R, times T. And then, of course, we learned about the various meanings of what each of these letters mean. Okay, so real life example. Sarah deposits $4,000 at a bank at an interest rate of 4.5% per year. How much interest will she earn at the end of 3 years? So in this situation, it's a positive situation. She is putting money, she's saving it, and she's hoping to get money back from the bank because they're going to be using it. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit more clear. So again, we have simple interest equals principal times interest rate times periods are, how often you'll be paying something or you'll be getting money. In this case, you'll be getting money back, or she will. So she deposits $4,000. $4,000 is the original amount. So she deposits $4,000. $4,000 is our original amount, or our principal. And she is getting back an interest rate of 4.5% each year. So that is the annual interest rate instead of the monthly one, right? So we're going to go ahead and let me go back real quick. Okay, so she's getting times 4.5%, but again, you can't put a percentage in an equation, you have to put it as a decimal. So on the side, we'll have our 4.5%. We'll divide it by 100%. This is going to give our percentages here. And we take off the zeros on the bottom, which means we move the decimal again to the right 2 times. And we put a 0 here. So your interest, or your decimal now, is going to be, your R is going to be, or your interest rate is going to be 0.0545 as the decimal amount instead of the percentage amount. So we have 4,000 times 0.045. This is the annual, so this is the yearly amount. And then how many times is she gonna get money back? So she's that's per year, right? And she's doing it over a total of 3 years. So we have 3 years in total. So that means that over the course of 3 years, she is going to be making $540. So let me know if you got that same answer or if you got a different answer, and I can go over it with you. But again, originally she had 4,000. She's getting an interest rate every year of 0.045%, and she's doing it for 3 years in total. So for 3 years, she's making $540. Now, if you wanted to know, how much is she making back every month, for example, we can go over that as well. So this is $540 for 3 years, right? But now let me go ahead and clean this, and we can see how much is she making extra every month. So for 3 years, Sarah gets back $540. For each year, she gets, so 540 divided by 3 is how much she'll make each year. If you want to do each month, you just do 540 divided by the 3 years, and obviously every year has 12 months, so times 12, which will give you the total months instead, will give you how much she'll be making each month. And I can do that calculation just right now as well. So give me 1 second. Okay, so 540 divided by 3, that gives 180. So she's making back 180 every year, right? And then, if we were to find out every month, so 3 years times 12 months means, in 3 years you have 36 months, basically. And 36, so that would do 540 divided by 36 months, means for those 3 years, she's making $15 every month using simple interest. So for simple interest, you're making the same amount of money every month, no matter what. That interest rate is the same, the amount you get paid every month is the same, or the amount you have to pay will always be the same. So I hope that made sense. And then we can go ahead and talk about the next thing. Let me go ahead and clean this. Okay. So let me share my screen again so you can see the solution as well. Now let me actually show the original question. So Sarah deposits $4,000 at a bank at an interest rate of 4.5% per year. How much interest will she earn at the end of 3 years? And we found that to be $540. So the equation, we just use 4,000 times the 4.5% times 3, which gives us $540. Obviously, you would make that percentage into a decimal, so 0.045. Here I just kept it simple, depending on how you know percentages versus decimals. So again, it should be $540. So hopefully when you do that in the calculator, you got the same answer as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk about compound interest. So simple interest, again, you get paid the same amount every month, or you pay the same amount of every month in interest, as well as the payment that you have to make. Compound interest is a little bit different, and it's a little bit harder to explain. So I'll kind of give like a simple example before I explain it 100%. So simple interest is this. You put $100 and you have a specific percentage. Let me use a darker color. So let's say, you know, you have $100, okay? For simple interest, you could probably only make, you know, let's give an example, $10 every month for a year. So 10 times 12 is 120, so that means in total you would make, you know, $220. So let's say that's times 12 months. This is the interest you get back, which is 120. So 120 plus your original 100 means in total you're going to get $220. Now, what if we had compound interest instead? So compound. Instead of just making $10 every time like simple interest, instead you're going to be making a little bit more every time. So the first month, you make $10. But the second month, you make $10 plus an extra dollar. Why? You're wondering probably why. Because of the fact that you have $100, you have a percentage that gives you $10 for the first month. So that first month, at the end, you have $110. But now for the second month, you are actually starting with $110, and you add on that interest rate again. Because you have more money, you're actually going to get more from the interest as well, right? Which is why people usually put large amounts of money in order to get large amounts of money back. So then, instead of just getting $110 back, you might actually get $11 back this time. So now you have $121. And then the third month, you'll have $121 plus the interest you get back for not the $100, but for the $121. So you might get back maybe $12.50, and so on and so forth. So compound interest, you're always making more money, but simple interest, you always get a specific amount every month for sure. So it really depends on the situation. You know, if you're paying money back, simple interest is better. If you're trying to invest money and get money back, compound interest is better. So it just depends on the situation and how much you're willing to invest or how much you're willing to pay for a loan. So make sure to be careful and figure out what kind of payment plans you're getting into for loans or what kind of investing you're getting into, because you might have an opportunity that will give you compound instead of simple. So just be aware of that and look into that. Okay, so this is the equation for compound interest. So what is it? The compound interest is the interest earned on the principal and any interest accrued in the past. How to use it? Use this formula instead of the simple interest equation to get a more precise number for how much interest will accrue. Best for determining how much actual interest you will earn over time on an investment or pay on a debt. So again, you know, it's very important to think about the various opportunities you have and the various benefits getting a specific type of investment package or getting a specific type of loan, because in the end you could pay more or you could pay less, or you could get more, you could get less. So looking at all of your options, thinking about what is most important for you is the best way to go before signing any papers, before deciding to go with a specific lender or to go with a specific thing. So let's go ahead and talk about the various parts in the equation here that we have. So A equals amount accumulated. So amount accumulated is the total amount that either needs to be paid over a certain amount of time or the amount of money that you'll be getting after a certain amount of time. P is the principal or the original amount of either the loan or the investment. R is the interest rate, which is usually annual, and you either have to use it as an annual rate or you can make it into monthly rate, depending on what you're trying to figure out. N equals compoundings per period. So let's say you get 2N, or so let's say you get paid twice in a month, then that would be 24 times in a year, which would be year N. But if you only get paid once a month, which is just 12 times in a year, and you'd be 12 instead. And then you have to think about how long. Is it only for a year? Is it for 5 years? So let's say you have something for 5 years. You would do the yearly amount, which is 12, and you would multiply it by the overall years, which would be 5, and that would give you your total N, which would be 60. And then what about T, which is number of periods, or basically the number of times that something is getting paid. So if you're only getting paid once a month, that's 12 times. But what if you do it twice instead? Then it would be 24. So it really depends on the amount, of course. Okay, so here's a real life example. So we're gonna use Sarah again because this makes more sense. I'm not gonna give you the answer. I'll give you the answer on the show afterwards because I want to see if you're able to use this more complex equation versus the simple equation. So we have A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT, or exponent NT, right? And now we need to think about everything that we have. So we're figuring out how much we're going to accumulate over a specific amount of time. We know her principal. So Sarah is saving or investing 4,000. So P is 4,000. And that's going to be multiplied by 1 plus. So her interest rate is 3%, but that's for the annual. We need to make it into the monthly because her period or her amount of times of paying something is going to be a monthly amount. So we're going to do 0.03 divided by 12 for R, and then over how much in total, right? So she has it for, let me check, because I don't remember, for 3 years. So her interest is actually 4.5%. So it's going to be 0.045 divided by 12. That's her interest per month. And then she has the investment for 3 years. So her N is equal to 3 years. Or if you're doing it monthly, which is what I'm doing, her N is equal to 3 years times 12 months, which is equal to 36. So over 36. And then again, we're going to multiply by the amount of periods, which is 36 months in total. Times the amount of time she's paying. She's getting an investment back, which is once every 12 months, right? Because it's every year she's getting paid back once 12 times. So let me know what you get as the answer. I'll share it at the end. I know it's a little bit complicated and I understand that, but in the future, next time I'll show some YouTube videos as well, so hopefully that'll be helpful in understanding it. And then I understand it can be a little bit tricky when you think of compounding versus like the number of periods. So next time I'll go into that a little bit more as well to give better examples. Yeah, so go ahead and try it at home. Tell me what you get. I'll also do it as well, and I'll share the answer next time. And then I'll go and explain compounding per periods more as well as number of periods more as well. So we can go ahead and take a short break real quick. Because I want to see, if anyone's commented or has any questions, and then we can go kind of from there. Back. I hope today was very helpful. And again, we went over various simple terms in finance. We talked about equations that you could use to figure out, mortgage payments, student loans, car payments, as well as investing when it comes to retirement, getting a savings account, getting a money market, and figuring out what type of investing is best for you, as well as what type of loan to get is also very important. So, make sure to be aware of your surroundings, do your research ahead of time, figure out what option is best for you. Don't just go to the very first, banker who says they have a great deal, or a car dealership that says this is the best deal, because in reality, it's usually not. Shopping around, looking at the market is very important. So, don't just take the word of someone because you think they're professional. You yourself can learn and, grow the knowledge and be better and figure out stuff. So I'm going to do this problem next time at the very beginning, because I want to go over how you figure out the compounding and the periods, because I think I want to do it, redo it as well. But again, if you figure out the answer and you know it, comment down below and let me know if you think that's correct, and I will verify. I'll figure out the equations myself, because I made these equations up. Not the equations, I made these problems up, but the equations are from people who, have a lot of experience. But I want to say also that a lot of my information came from, the University of Utah, what I learned from my professors, as well as various resources online that you could look up as well. Investopedia is really great, looking at various economy or financial corporations, and then looking at educational websites. YouTube can be very helpful as well in learning this. So yeah, next time I'm going to redo this problem because I want to make it more clear, and my understanding versus your understanding is a little bit different. So I want to make sure that I teach it properly. And next time I'll teach you other equations, as well as maybe have a guest. We'll see what goes on every time we have a different lesson. So let me share my screen again. So again, this is let me go back to the problem. So again, we talked about compound interest, which is different from simple interest. You usually make more money or you pay more money depending on the situation you're in. And these are the various parts and what they mean. This is the example equation we're using Sarah again because I want to compare how much Sarah will make after 3 years with simple interest versus after 3 years with compound interest. But when I found this problem online, I only had the answer for simple interest. But next time I will give you the answer for compound interest, and then you can compare whether she makes more money with compound or with simple interest. But go ahead and write it down if you want and try it on your own as well. And of course, the way to solve it is using this equation, and I'll make sure to do that next time and make it more clear. And I'll type it out so we can compare. So that's all I have really today for my show. I wanted to kind of go into more complex things with personal finance. And I hope it was helpful for people who, just wanted like a basic intro. My hope is to kind of do a basic intro of things and then go more complex as time goes on. Again, you can, the phone number I have provided now is 385-499-9124. If you would like to call, leave a message about anything. If you have any questions or want to be on my show, just please let me know, or you can email me. My email is universalfinanceacademy@gmail.com. And you can also watch my show, on Bahar TV and Sohail TV, as well as my own Facebook channel, which is called Universal Finance Academy on Facebook, or on my YouTube, it's called Universal Academy TV. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn if you would like to. My name is Sinijana Asma Rokanivna, and on my Facebook you can find me. It's Universal Finance Academy. So in the future, I'll be talking more about other equations. I'll talk about various types of accounts you can open at banks, as well as different types of investments you can do and how to figure out which one is the best opportunity for yourself. We'll also have different guests as well. My TV producer, my mother, was great, and she found a lot of great people to be on my show. And then inshallah, when they do come, when they're available, we'll talk about other kinds of majors, we'll talk about other career options, and we'll go more in depth about how you can make the best decision for your life. So I hope this was helpful today, and then I hope to see you next week as well, and we can go, in the future we'll be going into more STEM related fields, so science, engineering, math, and then we'll go into other fields that are humanities, psychology, philosophy, literature. So hopefully they'll be interesting for you and will be helpful. So, thank you so much for taking the time with me. Thank you for, supporting me, and I'll hope to see you next week. Office.